Jesse Lee Peterson debates this young woman on the order of a family. It's going to be interesting, or it might be controversial, and some of you might hate it, but check it out anyways.
Do you believe God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, and woman over children? You believe that order?
I believe that there's a through line that God has set up with God as the head, and then you have the household going in that direction. But I believe also that with a man, that it becomes a partnership. The man is not there to rule over the woman. When a wife submits to her husband, submission, as from the Bible, does not mean control. Submission means to bring things into order. Households must have an order.
Do you obey your husband?
Do I obey my husband? Okay, so now let me ask you, what direction are we going in now? Are we talking about Black mommy activists or my own personal life?
The reason I asked because you said...
Are there two different things? I mean, I would assume your personal life is inclined with your activism.
What direction are we going in now? Are we talking about Black mommy activists or my own personal life?
The reason I asked because you said...
In my own personal life, I am a happily married woman to a Christian man. I'm a Christian woman. I'm a Christian mother, and I'm raising two sons as Christian. That's 23 years. Whether or not I obey my husband has nothing to do with understanding what it means to co-parent, co-raise, and pour into the lives. I mean, it's just asinine now. Like, I think you're just making stuff up. Because actually you're making stuff up, maybe to get a rise, because you cannot tell me deep in your heart that you actually believe what you're asking.
I know for a fact, and without a doubt, unless Black people return to the order of God, God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, and woman over children, it's not going to work. What?
Okay, but 2 seconds ago you were saying unless Black children are raised by a decent mom and dad who are married.
That's true, because when I was growing up, Black people were like a decent people then, and so they.
The way I was going to say Jesse Lee Peterson talks, the way he talks is just crazy. When I was growing up, Black people used to be like decent back then. So how about now? They're not decent anymore.
Ago you were saying unless Black children are raised by a decent mom and dad who are married.
That's true, because when I was growing up, Black people were like a decent people then, and so they respected the order. They got married.
What year did you grow up?
I'm 70.
Are you a baby boomer?
I'm 72 right now.
Okay, so you're part of the last Jim Crow generation, right?
And
you grew up doing Jim Crow, and I think your whole generation needs some counseling. Y'all grew up doing Jim Crow.
I grew up under the Jim Crow law, and Black people were better off then because they loved God and they respected the order. If a Black woman got pregnant out of wedlock, it wasn't an embarrassment to the family. She would have to have a shotgun wet or go into hiding. But Black people are not moral like that anymore. They're just crazy. They are blaming and begging and whining and trying to take.
Honestly, I do believe in the other family, and I think what Jesse Lee Peterson is saying is absolutely true. At the end, I'll tell you my reasons, but I do believe that. Again, I'm also Nigerian and very traditional, so maybe that's the reason. People will say I'm not civilized enough or I'm not modern enough. I don't know, but I do believe in the other family. Let's hear
from the white people, and I'm surprised to see the Blacks act that way, because they were more independent.
The Blacks, because you know you're Black too. When you're talking about the Blacks, I think Mr. Jesse Lee Peterson, as someone who grew up during the Jim Crow generation, I am not sure what it is that you are basing your belief on in terms of talking about morality, in terms of talking about how Black people were better off then. I think that we've had some difficult periods within our community, and I would definitely argue that Jim Crow was a difficult time for
No, it wasn't.
Folks.
It was not.
Said he wasn't. And this is not the first time he said this. He said it wasn't a difficult time. Black people were better off then than now, or were decent then.
Jim Crow was a difficult time for
No, it wasn't.
Folks.
It was not.
The terror. Yes, it was.
Because
all the research shows it was. I'm telling my own father. I should get my father on the phone to talk to you, because I think perhaps you are not remembering.
In the good old days, when Jim Crow existed, the Black people knew that it was the Democratic Party. The Jim Crow law was about keeping Blacks out of the Democratic Party, and that all white people were not against Black people. And as a result, the Blacks and the whites started the Republican Party, because the Jim Crow Democratic Party did not want the blacks to be a part of it. Do you believe
Yeah, that's not false. I've read about that.
that racism exists?
Okay, so let me start here, Mr. Peterson, because I think that you are confused, and perhaps you're conflating things to fit whatever narrative that you have. You started off with, it's like, until black people come back to God. And before that, it was blacks are wild and out of control. And now it's about, you know, what's happening in the Democratic Party. Are you a Republican? Do you believe there's racism? I think that you and I probably will not be able to agree. I find your comments quite inflammatory.
What do you mean by that?
And almost, yeah, well, I think that you're saying these things to get
Oh, they're
rise.
not true, though, what I'm saying.
I cannot believe, as someone who has grown up.
You know, she's actually right with the point that the argument is everywhere. But even though the argument is everywhere, a lot of the things he said is not false. But I would prefer to keep the arguments on one topic, because they were also speaking about family, and now they're speaking about the Republican Party.
Under this American regime, who saw firsthand the impact of Jim Crow on the lives and the psyche and the emotional state of black folks, someone who has seen with
But that's made up history. That's a rewriting of history. That's not true.
No, there's no rewriting of history. That's not what we're talking about. We're not rewriting history. I said, as someone who grew up under Jim Crow, which you did, as someone who was able to see the state and condition of black folks in this country under Jim Crow, which you
I did not. No, that's not true.
You did. You cannot tell me that. So you never watched TV, you never read the newspaper, you never had any sense of what happened, because you were growing up under this time. You never heard about lynchings, you never heard about Emmett Till, you never heard about the civil rights movement, you never heard about the assassination of Dr. King, you never heard about the assassination of Malcolm X, you never heard about the assassination of Medgar Evers, you never heard about any of that.
I heard of those things.
You never heard of any of that, then that's a problem.
I heard of those things, but it's nothing like what the blacks are pretending that it was. It looked like the blacks are using it for personal gain. So I want to ask you.
Using the civil rights movement for personal gain?
Yeah, absolutely.
How do we use the civil rights movement for personal gain?
The worst thing that ever happened to the blacks were the civil rights movement.
The worst
when they did that,
the worst thing that ever happened to black
was
people
the civil rights.
Was the civil rights.
Right, because
the civil
let
rights,
me tell you why.
That's tough to say. The worst thing to happen to the blacks was the civil rights movement. Okay, let's hear his explanation, because I don't know where this is going.
The worst thing that ever happened to black people
was the civil rights.
Was the civil rights.
Right, because let me tell you why. What the blacks did was, prior to the civil rights movement, they didn't have a leader over them. God was their leader, and the parents were the leader of their children. But what the blacks did, they allowed Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and all those guys to become their leaders, and so they sold them to the Democratic Party for the vote, and agreeing that they would be the black folks' leader. But blacks never had leaders before those votes. But I got to ask you this.
Never had leaders before. I mean, the fact that you, in naming the leaders, you said
they're the black people leaders as a result of the civil rights movement.
No, not the black. There were a number of black people who were leading. I'm thinking of Dorothy Ahide, who led the National Council of Negro Women. I'm thinking of Ella Baker, who helped to organize.
Why are black people so weak? They need leaders. Why are they so weak? They need a leader.
Okay, Mr.
But the leader is not necessarily affiliated to weakness. It's affiliated to unity. You know, keeping everybody, making sure everybody's inclined to the same goal or aligned to the same goal. Yeah. So I don't know where he's going with this, but let me hear him out.
Thinking of Ella Baker, who helped to organize.
Why are black people so weak? They need leaders. Why are they so weak? They need a leader.
Okay, Mr. Peterson, I think that we have reached an end. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, but I do not think we're going to agree. And I am very concerned about the things you're saying, but I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, but I think I'm going to discontinue.
Will you at least do my hot seat before you go? I have a hot seat.
What's the hot seat?
I need you to answer these questions as quickly as possible. Okay? True or false? Black people always late.
Okay, goodbye, sir. Thank you so much.
This man got her so mad. So mad. Yeah, I feel like Jesse Lee Peterson, he's very knowledgeable. He says what is mostly right, but sometimes he plays with people, you know, like he says a little too much and then he just wants to play with people and just mess with them. But as far as the family structure, I don't see anything wrong with that. What I actually think, if a woman submits, submission is not control. Like, she was right about that. But also you have to understand that a man is very competitive. You know, if a man, you don't want your husband to see you as a competition. And if you submit to him, he exalts you. This is very practical. You know, go to your house and tell your husband, honey, we are eating this tonight. He's going to ask you, no, let's eat this. But if you ask your husband, honey, what do you want to eat? He's probably going to tell you, you decide. You see, if you exalt, you know, if you submit to him, he exalts you. But if you try to compete with him, he brings you down. And this is not husband and wife. It's just a rule across everything. Two men will always compete because you don't want to be a man to your man. Smash the like button, subscribe, share your thoughts. Very controversial things were said in the video. You have to understand that this is speculative and is a discussion. So please come with your own discussion and your own story. Don't attack us. Smash the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.